Welcome to Poetry and Voice. Welcome to the 2015 National Finals. This is the English session, the qualifiers. We are here to, well, I'll introduce them to you in a minute. First, my name is Sepide Anvar. I'm the director of Les Voix de la Poésie, which is the French-speaking side of the contest. I'm really happy to welcome you here to Montreal. It's the first time we're having the National Finals in Montreal. It's the first time we're having the National Finals live streamed on the internet, so I'm happy to welcome also schools from all of the country who are watching us, from as far away in the west as BC and all the way east. Welcome to you all. I've heard also that there are people in the United States and France who might be watching us, so welcome all. Just a bit of pressure on our kids. Well, the people you really should be applauding are in the wings. So why don't you come out on stage? You're going to hear the best in Canada in English recite today. Come. These are students. We have representatives here from almost every single province in the country. They were chosen from among thousands of students by our online semifinals judges, and they're going to recite for you today. I'll introduce to you now the judges who will be watching your recitations today. There are the three people in the front there. Sina Karas on the right, waving, who's a critic, a poet, and a professor at Concordia University. Jeremy Dodds next to her, who is also a poet and a translator of medieval Icelandic poetry. And next to him, Stephanie Bolster, who's a poet and also a professor at Concordia University. Thank you all three for being here. It's really touches us very much. Thank you. So I hope you've taken your photos. We'd like you to avoid using flash during the recitations if possible, and also to turn off your things, please. Please go backstage and get ready to recite, and I will explain to the audience how this is going to go. Go ahead, thank you. Okay, so we have 18 students. Everyone has learned 3 poems by heart. The contest this session is in 3 rounds. The first round we'll hear all 18 recite their first poem. The order is random, the order of the students coming out on stage is random. There'll be a 5-minute break. Then we'll hear everybody recite their second poem, all 18, again, a different random order. After that second round, we'll bring everybody out again and find out which 6 of the 18 will be invited to recite a third poem in the third round. And at the very end of the third round, we find out which 3 are invited to compete tomorrow here, Centre Pierre Pelado at 10 a.m. For $25,000 in prizes. So it's a little bit complicated. I could explain it again if you like, but I probably don't. Yeah, okay, so let's begin. Thank you very much. Tiffany Toussaint, Marshall McLuhan Catholic Secondary School, Toronto, Ontario.
Mean Drunk poem, Sharon Dussin. Backward and down, into and between, as Vicky says, or as Robin teaches, the gap from which all things emerge, a left-handed complement, bats, houses of parliament, giants, stones. What woman, witness to such thought, does not feel so described and so impotent? She thinks she must speak. I will take your linguistic prick, and you will take my linguistic prick, and together we'll gap this imagined earth together. She has the feeling all her life that she never makes sense. There is something else big and dark at the edge of what she knows she cannot say. She always has the feeling she's translating to broken English. Language all her life is a second language. The first is mute and exist. I get drunk to lubricate my brain, and all that comes out of my gap is more bloody writing. No wonder we cook dinner, have another kid, write poetry about the beloved, and kiss ass. Who cares? As Eleanor says, who beats whose door down yelling truth? The door is only and always an entrance. Sing Om as you take the sausage rolls out of the oven. The gap is real, and there is no such thing as female intelligence. We're dumber than hell.
Margot Hunter Moffat, Next Step Senior High, Sherwood Park, Alberta.
Introduction to Poetry by Billy Collins. I ask them to take a poem and hold it up to the light like a color slide, or press an ear against its hive. I say, drop a mouse into a poem and watch him probe his way out, or walk inside the poem's room and feel the walls for a light switch. I want them to water ski across the surface of a poem, waving at the author's name on the shore. But all they want to do is tie the poem to a chair with rope and torture a confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means.
Cyan Patterson, Moncton High School, Moncton, New Brunswick.
A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream, yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep. While I weep, oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?
Maddie Wiki, Prince of Wales Secondary School, Vancouver, British Columbia.
Thoughtless Cruelty by Charles Lamb. There, Robert, you have killed that fly. And should you 1,000 ages try, the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learn to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night. There's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food, and Providence, whose power endued that fly with life, when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for it. A life, by nature, made so short, less reason is that you for sport should shorter make it. A fly, a little thing you rate, but Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibers, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing.
Nicole Verstichelen, Middleton Regional High School, Middleton, Nova Scotia.
Self-portrait by Robert Creeley. He wants to be a brutal old man, an aggressive old man, as dull, as brutal as the emptiness around him. He doesn't want compromise, nor to be ever nice to anyone. Just mean and final in his brutal, his total rejection of it all. He tried the sweet, the gentle, the oh, let's hold hands together, and it was awful. Dull, brutally inconsequential. Now he'll stand on his own dwindling legs, his arms, his skin shrink daily. And he loves, but hates equally.
Pierce Dixon, St. John's Ravenscourt School, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Interesting People of Newfoundland by John Ashbery. Newfoundland is, or was, full of interesting people. Like Larry, who would make a fool of himself on street corners for a nickel. There was the Russian, who called himself the Grand Duke, and who was said to be a real duke from somewhere, and the woman who frequently accompanied him on his rounds. Doc Hanks, the Sawbones, was a real good surgeon when he wasn't completely drunk, which was most of the time. When only half drunk, he could perform decent cranial surgery. There was the blind man who never said anything, but produced spectral sounds on a musical saw. There was Walsh's, with its fancy grocery department. What a treat when mother or father would take us down there, skidding over slippery snow and ice, to be rewarded with a rare fig from somewhere. They had teas from every country you could imagine, and hard little cakes from Scotland, rare sherries and Madeiras to reward the aunts and uncles who came dancing. On summer evenings, in the eternal light, it was a joy just to be there and think. We took long rides into the countryside, but were always stopped by some bog or other. Then it was time to return home, which was okay with everybody, each of them having discovered he or she could use a little shut-eye. In short, there was a higher per capita percentage of interesting people there than almost anywhere on Earth. But the population was small, which meant not too many interesting people. But for all that, we loved each other and had interesting times picking each other's brain and drawing nets on the wooden docks. Always some more of us would come along. It is in the place in the world in complete beauty, as none can gainsay, I declare, and strong frontiers to collide with. Worship of the chthonic powers may well happen there, but is seldom in evidence. We love that too, as we were a part of all that happened there, the evil and the good, and all the shades in between, happy to pipe up at roll call or compete in the spelling bees. It was too much of a good thing, but at least it's over now. They're making a pageant out of it. One of them told me, it's coming to a theater near you.
Wayne's Manalang, Lakeshore Collegiate Institute, Toronto, Ontario.
My Meadow, My Twilight by Carl Phillips. Sure, there's a spell the leaves can make, shuddering and in their lying suddenly still again, flat and still, like time itself when it seems unexpectedly more available, more to lose therefore, more to love or try to. But to look up from the leaves, remember, is a choice also, as if up from the shame of it all, the promiscuity, the seeing how nothing now will save you, up to the wind-stripped branches, shadow signing the ground before you, the way, lately, all the branches seem to, or you like to say they do, which is at least half of the way, isn't it, toward belief, whatever in the end belief is. You can look up, or you can close the eyes entirely, making some of the world, for a moment, go away. But only some of it. Not the part about hurting others as the one good answer to being hurt, and not the part that can at first seem, understandably, a life in ruins, even if refusing ruin, because you can refuse. You look again, down the steep corridor of what's just another late winter afternoon, dark as night already, dark the leaves and darker still. The door that each night you keep meaning to find again. Having lost it, you had only to touch it just once, and it bloomed wide open.
Gunjan Katkar, Semiahmoo Secondary School, Surrey, British Columbia.
O Captain, My Captain, by Walt Whitman. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wreck. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting. While follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red, whereon the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills, for you bouquets and ribboned wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip, the victor ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells. But I, with mournful tread, walk the deck, my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead.
Pamela Lazara, Vincent Massey Collegiate, Rosemont, Quebec.
Plenty by Kevin Connolly. The sky, lit up like a question or an applause meter, is beautiful like everything else today. The leaves in the gutters, salt stains on shoes, the girl at the IGA who looks just like Julie Delpy, but you don't tell her. She's too young to get the reference, and coming from you, it'll just seem creepy. So much beauty. Today you can't find room for it. Closets already filled with beautiful trees and smells and glances and clever turns of phrase. Behind the sky, there's a storm on the way, which, with your luck, will be a beautiful storm. Dark clouds, beautiful as they arguably are. The rain, beautiful as it always is. Even lightning can be beautiful in a scary kind of way. There's a word for that. But let's forget it for the moment. And maybe the sun will hang in long enough to light up a few raindrops, like jewels or glass, or those bright beads girls put between the letters on the bracelets that spell out their beautiful names, Sky or Miranda or Veranda, which isn't even a name, although it is a word we use to call things what they are, and would be a pleasant place to sit and watch the beautiful sky, beautiful storm, the people with their beautiful names walking towards the lake in lovely clothing, saying unpleasant things over the phone about the people they work with, all of it just adding to the mother lode, the surfeit of beauty, which on this day is just a fancy way of saying lots, too much, skid loads, plenty.
Olivia Perry, St. James All Grade School, Lark Harbor, Newfoundland.
From Red Dock by Anne Carson. Good-looking boy, wasn't he? Yes. Blonde? Yes. I do vaguely. You never liked him. Bit of a rebel. So you said. He's the one who wore lizard pants and pearls to graduation, which at the time you admired. They were good pearls. You said he reminded you of your friend Mildred. Mildred taught me everything I know. She taught me how to entertain. You must miss her. I miss her martinis, stub cigarette. So what's he up to now? Just got out of the army. Wounded? Messed up. Are they giving him care? A guy shows up with a padded envelope of drugs every night. I guess it's care. He's staying with you? For a while. Behaving himself? Some days he sits around reading Christina Rossetti. Some days he comes out of the bathroom covered in camouflage paint. Keep him away from your herd. Did I tell you I finished Proust? Oh, yes. 7 years. Can you reach me those matches behind you? Reading it every day. Thanks. It's like having an extra unconscious. Well, I'm not fond of those multi-volume things. There's the part where he's comparing his Tante Leonie to a water lily. She's a swimmer. No, she's a neurasthenic. I don't get it. Well, she's old, nervous, lives in a single room, trapped in her little train of habits, the pills, the pains, the spying out the window. A water lily caught in the current, he says. Could be too late for me to appreciate Proust. On the other hand, I'm at a loss. I've read all of Len Dayton's in the library. Hundreds of people visit his home every year. Some just burst into tears. Len Dayton? No, Proust. Say, remember that time we were driving and crashed? What time? I forget where it was. I was driving. No, you were driving. I was looking out the window. All of a sudden, I thought I saw a deer racing out a driveway, so I start to. Just then my brain flashes on it being a wooden lawn ornament, not a real one. Watch out for that wooden deer! I yelled so loud you drove off the road into a guy's hedge and burst into tears. She laughs. He laughs. Speaking of tears, listen. Gets out a cigarette. To that wind. Storm coming. Where's the traffic? Wind, I think. From the north sounds like, so your surgery is scheduled for when? 25th. You want me to come with you? No, dear. Well, if you change your mind, I won't change my mind. I can easily. Thanks, though. Well, glances down at her crossword. I'll be fine. Well, so, time for you to go. I'll call on the weekend. Take some of those apples. They're the kind you like.
Sabrina Bento, Catholic Central High School, London, Ontario.
400, Coming Home, by Dennis Lee. You are still on the highway, and the great light of noon comes over the asphalt, the graveled shoulders. You are on the highway. There's a kind of laughter. The cars pound south. Over your shoulder, the scrub grass, the fences, the fields. Wait patiently, as though someone believed in them. The light has laid it upon them. One crow squawks. The edges take care of themselves. There's no strain. You can almost hear it. You inhabit it. Back in the city, many things you lived for are coming apart. Transistor rock still fills backyards. In the parks, young men do things to Hondas. There will be heat lightning, beer on the porches, goings on. That is not it. And you are still on the highway. There are no houses, no farms. Across the median, past the swish and thud of the northbound cars, beyond the opposite fences, the fields, the climbing escarpment, solitary in the bright eye of the sun, the birches dance, and they dance. They have their reasons. You do not know anything. Cicadas call now. In the darkening, swollen air, there is dust in your nostrils. Kind of laughter. You are still on the highway.
Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School, Ottawa, Ontario.
Preludes by T.S. Eliot. 1. The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways. 6 o'clock. The burnt out ends of smoky days, and now a gusty shower wraps the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet, and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, and at the corner of the street, a lonely cab horse steams and stamps. And then the lighting of the lamps. 2. The morning comes to consciousness of faint, stale smells of beer from the sawdust-trampled street with all its muddy feet that press to early coffee stands. With the other masquerades that time resumes, one thinks of all the hands that are raising dingy shades in 1,000 furnished rooms. 3. You tossed a blanket from the bed. You lay upon your back and waited. You dozed and watched the night revealing the 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. They flickered against the ceiling. And when all the world came back, and the light crept up between the shutters, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, you had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands. Sitting along the bed's edge where you curled the papers from your hair, or clasped the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. 4. His soul stretched tight across the skies that fade behind a city block, or trampled by insistent feet at 4 and 5 and 6 o'clock, and short square fingers stuffing pipes, and evening newspapers and eyes, assured of certain certainties, the conscience of a blackened street, impatient to assume the world. I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images and cling. The notion of some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. Wipe your hand across your mouth and laugh. The worlds revolve like ancient women, gathering fuel in vacant lots.
Erin Mugford, Eric Hamber, Secondary School, Vancouver, BC.
Wolf Lake by Elizabeth Baczynski. It was down that road he brought me, still in the trunk of his car. I won't say it felt right, but it did feel expected. The way you know your blood can spring like a hydrant. That September, the horseflies were murder in the valley. I'd come home to visit the family, get in a couple of weeks of free food, hooked up with the guy I'd known when I was a kid. And things went bad. When he cut me, I remember looking down, my blood surprising as paper snakes leaping from a tin. He danced me around his basement apartment, dumped me on the Chesterfield, sat down beside me and lit a smoke. He seemed a black bear in the gloam, shoulders rounded under his clothes. So I tried to remember everything I knew about black bears. Whistle while you walk, carry bells. If you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Play dead. Everything slowed. I'll tell you a secret. It's hard to kill a girl. You've got to cut her bad, and you've got to cut her right. And the boy had done neither. Pain rose along the side of my body like light. I lay very still while he smoked beside me. This boy I'd camped with every summer since we were 12. The lake so quiet. You could hear the sound of a heron skim the water at dusk, or the sound of a boy's breathing. I came to in the trunk of his car, gravel kicking up against the frame, dust coming in through the cracks. It was dark. I was thirsty. I couldn't move my hands or legs. The pain was still around. I think I was tied. We drove that way for a long time before the Chrysler finally slowed, then stopped. Sound of gravel crunching under tires. I could smell the lake, a place where as kids we'd come to swim and know we'd never be seen. Logs grew up from that lake bed. All those black bones rising from black water. I remember. We'd always smelled of lake water and of sex by the end of the day. And there was a tape of Patsy Cline we always liked to sing to on our way out, which is what I thought we'd be doing that September afternoon. You know, you hear about the body all the time. They found the body was found, and then you are one. Someone once told me the place had been a valley, before the dam, before the town, but that was a long time ago. When the engine stopped, I heard the silver sound of keys in the lock. And then I was up on his shoulders, tasting blood. I think he said my name. I think he walked toward the woods.
Ayo Akinfenwa, Burr Oak Secondary School, Markham, Ontario.
Fear of Snakes by Lorna Crozier. The snake can separate itself from its shadow. Move on, ribbons of light, taste the air, the morning and the evening. The darkness at the heart of things. I remember when my fear snakes left for good. It fell behind me like an old skin. In swift current, the boys found a huge snake and chased me down the alleys. Larry Moen carrying it like a green torch, the others yelling, "Drop it," down her back, my terror of it sliding in the runnel of my spine. Larry, the one who touched the inside of my legs on the swing. An older boy we knew we shouldn't get close to, with our little dresses, our soft skin. My brother saying, "Let her go," and I crouched behind the Caraganas. Watched Larry nail the snake to a telephone pole. It twisted on twin points of light, unable to crawl out of its pain, its mouth opening, the red tongue tasting its own terror. I loved it then, that snake. The boys standing there, their stupid hands dangling from their wrists. The beautiful green mouth opening. The terrible, dark, oh, no one could hear.
Rosalind Olstorn Grant, Resurrection Catholic Secondary School, Kitchener, Ontario.
Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted, her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above or the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
Rose Henbest, Montague Regional High School, Montague, PEI.
Insomnia, Kate Hall. If I were to sleep, it would be on an iron bed, bolted to the floor in a bomb-proof concrete room with 12 locks on the door. I wouldn't ask for mattress or decorate. I wouldn't ask for beautiful. I'd let philosophers in, but not into my bed. They'd arrive, cradling their brass instruments. I might let them play, but only very softly, and only if they didn't fight or sing. If I were to sleep, there wouldn't be any windows. There'd be a skylight, but in the middle of the floor. I'd press my face against the glass and stare down at other floors upon floors upon floors. I'd do a sleep dance right on top of that skylight. It would be a new game. It would involve amazing feats of sleep contortion. It would involve letters. If I were to sleep, I'd be spread-eagled across the bed, and even with the iron struts and screws cutting into my back, I would protect the metal frame. I would protect the spring.
Kaylin Regier, Mount Douglas Secondary School, Victoria, BC.
From Thirsty by Dion Brand. This city is beauty, unbreakable and amorous as eyelids. In the streets, pressed with fierce departures, submerged landings. I am innocent as thresholds and smashed nightbirds, lovesick as empty elevators. Let me declare doorways, corners, pursuit. Let me say, standing here, in eyelashes, in invisible breasts, in the shrinking lake, in the tiny shops of untrue recollections, the brittle, gnawed life we live. I am held and held. The touch of everything blushes me. Pigeons and wrecked boys, half-dead hours, blind musicians. Inconclusive women in bruised dresses. Even the habitual, gray-suited men with terrible briefcases. How come? How come I anticipate nothing as intimate as history? Would I have had a different life, failing this embrace with broken things? Iridescent veins, ecstatic bullets, small cracks in the brain. Would I know these particular facts? How a phrase scars a cheek, how water dries love out. This, a thought as casual as any second, eviscerates a breath. And this, we meet in careless intervals, in coffee bars, gas stations, in prosthetic conversations, lotteries, untranslatable mouths, inversions of what we may be. A tremor of the hand in the realization of endings, a glancing blow of tears on skin, the keen dismissal in speed.
Momina Nafis, Westmount High School, Westmount, Quebec.
A satirical elegy on the death of a late famous general, Jonathan Swift.
His Grace, impossible. What? Dead? Of old age too, and in his bed? And could that mighty warrior fall? And so inglorious after all? Well, since he's gone, no matter how, the last loud trump must wake him now. And trust me, as the noise grows stronger, he'd wish to sleep a little longer, and could he be indeed so old? As by the newspapers we're told. 80, I think, is pretty high. 'Twas time in conscience he should die. This world he cumbered long enough. He burnt his candle to the snuff. And that's the reason some folks think he left behind so great a stink. Behold, his funeral appears, nor widow's sighs, nor orphan's tears want at such times each heart to pierce. Attend the progress of his hearse. But what of that, his friends may say? He had those honors in his day. True to his profit and his pride, he made them weep.
before he died.
Come hither, all ye empty things, ye bubbles raised by breath of kings, who float upon the tide of state. Come hither and behold your fate. Let pride be taught by this rebuke. How very mean a thing's a duke, from all his ill-got honors flung, turn to that dirt from whence he sprung.
Not bad, huh? So you've got a sense now of the lie of the land. We'll give you a 5-minute break, just 5 minutes, then we'll come back and do round 2. Thank you very much. Okay, everybody ready for round 2? We're going to have the same 18 students, different poem, different order. Here we go. Round 2, Maddie Wickie, Prince of Wales Secondary School, Vancouver, BC.
Mean Drunk Poem by Sharon Teason. Backward and down, into in between, as Vicky says, or as Robin teaches. The gap from which all things emerge. A left-handed complement. Bats. Houses of Parliament. Giants, stones. What women witness to such thought does not feel so described and so impudent. She thinks she must speak. I will take your linguistic prick, and you will take my linguistic prick, and together we will gap this imagined earth together. She has the feeling all her life that she never makes sense. There is something else, big and dark, at the edge of what she knows. She cannot say. She always has the feeling she is translating into broken English. Language, all her life, is a second language. The first is mute and exists. I get drunk to lubricate my brain, and all that comes out of my gap is more bloody writing. No wonder we cook dinner, have another kid, write poetry about the beloved, and kiss ass. Who cares, as Eleanor says? Who beats whose door down yelling truth? The door is only and always an entrance. Sing as you take the sausage rolls out of the oven. The gap is real, and there is no such thing as female intelligence. More dumber than hell.
Nicole Verstichelen, Middleton Regional High School, Middleton, Nova Scotia.
Barter by Sarah Teasdale. Life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things. Blue waves whitened on a cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell, music like a curve of gold, scent of pine trees in the rain, eyes that love you, arms that hold, and for your spirit's still delight, holy thoughts that star the night. Spend all you have for loveliness, buy it, and never count the cost.
For one white singing hour of peace, count many a year of strife well lost. And for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be.
Ayu Akinfenwa, Burr Oak Secondary School, Markham, Ontario.
Ah, Why? Because the Dazzling Sun by Emily Bronte. Ah, why? Because the dazzling sun restored my earth to joy. Have you departed, everyone, and left a desert sky? All through the night, your glorious eyes were gazing down in mine, and with a full heart's thankful sighs, I blessed that watch divine. I was at peace and drank your beams as they were life to me, and reveled in my changeful dreams like petrel on the sea. Thought followed thought, star followed star, through boundless regions on, while one sweet influence, near and far, thrilled through and proved us one. Why did the morning rise to break so great, so pure a spell, and scorch with fire the tranquil cheek where your cool radiance fell? Blood red you rose, an arrow straight, his fierce beam struck my brow. The soul of nature sprang, elate, but mine sank, sad and low. My lids closed down, yet through their veil I saw him, blazing still, and bathe in gold the misty dale and flash upon the hill. I turned me to the pillow then, to call back night and see your worlds of solemn light again throb with my heart in me. It would not do. The pillow glowed and glowed both roof and floor, and birds sang loudly in the wood, and fresh winds shook the door. The curtains waved. The wakened flies were murmuring round my room, imprisoned there till I should rise and give them leave to roam. O stars and dreams and gentle night, O night and stars, return and hide me from the hostile light that does not warm but burn, that drains the blood of suffering men, drinks tears instead of dew. Let me sleep through his blinding rain, and only wake with you.
Helen Regier, Mount Douglas Secondary School, Victoria, BC.
Sonnet 116 by William Shakespeare. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with a remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks upon tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Sabrina Bento, Catholic Central High School, London, Ontario.
Mrs. Kessler by Edgar Lee Masters. Mr. Kessler, you know, was in the army, and he drew $6 a month as a pension, and stood on the corner talking politics, or sat at home reading Grant's memoirs, and I supported the family by washing, learning the secrets of all the people, from their curtains, counterpanes, shirts and skirts, for things that are new growled at length, they're replaced with better or none at all. People are prospering or falling back. Rents and patches widen with time. No thread or needle can pace decay. And there are stains that baffle soap. And there are colors that run in spite of you, blamed though you are for spoiling a dress. Handkerchiefs, napery, have their secrets. The laundress, life, knows all about it. And I, who went to all the funerals held in Spoon River, swear I never saw a dead face without thinking it looked like something washed and ironed.
Momina Nafis, Westmount High School, Westmount, Quebec.
Barter, Sarah Teasdale. Life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things, blue waves whitened on a cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell. Buy it and never count the cost. Music like a curve of gold, scent of pine trees in the rain, eyes that love you, arms that hold, and for your spirit still delight, holy thoughts that star the night. Spend all you have for loveliness, buy it, and never count the cost. For one white singing hour of peace, count many a year of strife well lost. And for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be.
Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School, Ottawa, Ontario.
Amor Mundi by Christina Rossetti. Oh, where are you going with your love locks flowing, on the west wind blowing along this valley track? The downhill path is easy. Come with me, and it please ye. We shall escape the uphill by never turning back. So they two went together in glowing August weather. The honey-breathing heather lay to their left and right. And dear she was to dote on, her swift feet seemed to float on the air, like soft twin pigeons, too sportive to alight. Oh, what is that in heaven, where gray cloud flakes are seven, where blackest clouds hang riven just at the rainy skirt? Oh, that's a meteor sent us, a message dumb, portentous, an undeciphered solemn signal of help or hurt. What is that glides quickly where velvet flowers grow thickly, their scent comes rich and sickly? A scaled and hooded worm. Oh, what's that in the hollow, so pale I quake to follow? or that's a thin dead body which waits the eternal term. Turn again, O my sweetest, turn again, false and fleetest. This beaten way thou beatest, I fear, is hell's own track. Nay, too steep for hill mounting, nay, too late for cost counting. This downhill path is easy, but there's no turning back.
Olivia Perry, St. James All-Grade School, Lark Harbor, Newfoundland.
Poetry by Mary Ann Moore. I too dislike it. There are things that are important beyond all this fiddle. Reading it, however, with a perfect contempt for it, one discovers that there is in it, after all, a place for the genuine. Hands that can grasp, eyes that can dilate, hair that can rise if it must. These things are important, not because a high-sounding interpretation can be put upon them, but because they're useful. When they become so derivative as to become unintelligible, the same thing may be said for all of us, that we do not admire what we cannot understand. The bat, holding on upside down or in quest of something to eat, elephant pushing, a wild horse taking a roll, a tireless wolf under a tree, the immovable critic twiddling his skin like a horse that feels a flea, the baseball fan, the statistician, case after case could be said it did one wish it. Nor it is valid to discriminate against business documents and school books. All these phenomena are important. One must make a distinction, however. When dragged into prominence by half-poets, the result is not poetry. Nor till the autocrats among us can be literalists of the imagination, above insolence and triviality, and can present for inspection imaginary gardens with real toads in them, shall we have it. In the meantime, if you demand, on one hand, in defiance of their opinion, the raw material of poetry, in all its rawness, and that which is, on the other hand, genuine, then you are interested in poetry.
Tiffany Toussaint, Marshall McLuhan Catholic Secondary School, Toronto, Ontario.
War, Lee Maracle. In my body flows the blood of Gallic Bastille stormers and the soft, gentle ways of Salish Cree womanhood. Deep-throated bass tones dissipate, swallowed by the earth. Uproarious laughter sears, mutilates my voice. Child of the earth, tear of West Coast rain, dewdrops sparkling in the crisp, clear sun of my home. Warm woman of the Mediterranean sunscape, bleaching rough cotton sweatshop anniversary. Thunderous, rude earthquakes that split my spirit within tiny grapes of wine console me. Can I deny heritage blackened by the toil of billions conceived in rape, plunder, and butchery? In the veins that fight to root themselves, in the wondrous breath of my homeland, raises the blood of base humanity. European thief, liar, bloodsucker, I deny you not, I fear you not. Your reality and mine no longer rankles me. I am moved by my love for human life, by the firm conviction that all the world must stop the butchery, stop the slaughter. I am moved by my scars, by my own filth, to rewrite history with my body, to shed the blood of those who betrayed themselves. To life, world world humanity I ascribe to my people, my history. I address my vision.
Roslyn Alstorn Grant, Resurrection Catholic Secondary School, Kitchener, Ontario.
Introduction to the Songs of Innocence by William Blake. Piping down the valleys wild, piping songs of pleasant glee on a cloud, I saw a child, and he laughing said to me, "Pipe a song about a lamb." So I piped with merry cheer. "Piper, pipe that song again." So I piped. He wept to hear. "Drop thy pipe, thy happy pipe, sing thy songs of happy cheer." So I sung the same again, while he wept with joy to hear. "Piper, sit thee down and write in a book that all may read." So he vanished from my sight, and I plucked a hollow reed, and I made a rural pen, and I stained the water clear, and I wrote my happy songs every child may joy to hear.
Gunjan Katkar, Semiahmoo Secondary School, Surrey, BC.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act, act in the living present, heart within, and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime. And, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate. Still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
Waynes Manalang, Lakeshore Collegiate Institute, Toronto, Ontario.
Jack would speak through the imperfect medium of Alice by Alice Notley. So I'm an alcoholic Catholic mother lover, yet there is no sweetish nectar, No fuzz speech thing, no song sing, but in the word to which I'm starlessly, unreachably faithful. You pedant, and you politically righteous, and you alive. You think you can peel my sober word apart from my drunken word? My Buddhist word apart from my white sugar Therese word? My word to comrade from my word to my mother? But all my words are one word, my lives one. My last to first wound round in finally fiberless crystalline skin. I began as a drunkard and ended as a child. I began as an ordinary cruel lover and ended as a boy who read radiant newsprint. I began physically embarrassing, bloated, and ended as a perfect black-haired laddie. I began unnaturally subservient to my mother and ended in the crib for goldenness. I began in a fatal hemorrhage and ended in a tiny love's body, perfect, smallest one. But I began in a word and I ended in a word, and I know that word better than any knows me or knows that word. Probably, but I only ask to know it. That word is the word when I say me bloated, and when I say me manly, it's the word, that word I write perfectly, lovingly, one and one after the other one. But you can only take it when it's that one and not some other one. Or you say he lost it as if I so nothing could ever lose the word. But when there's only one word, when you know them, the words are all only one word, the perfect word. My body, my alcohol, my pain, my death are only the perfect word as I tell it to you, poor sweet categorizers. Listen. Every me I was and wrote were only and all gently that one perfect word.
Rose Henbest, Montague Regional High School, Montague PEI.
These poems, she said, Robert Bringhurst. These poems, she said, are poems with no love in them. These are the poems of a man who would leave his wife and child because they made noise in his study. These are the poems of a man who would murder his mother to claim the inheritance. These are the poems of a man like Plato, she said, meaning something I did not comprehend, but which nevertheless offended me. These are the poems of a man who would rather sleep with himself than with women, she said. These are the poems of a man with eyes like a draw knife, with hands like a pickpocket's hands, woven of water and logic and hunger, with no strand of love in them. These poems are as heartless as birdsong, as unmeant as elm leaves, which if they love only the wide blue sky and the air and the idea of elm leaves. Self-love is an ending, she said, and not a beginning. Love means love of the thing sung, not of the song or the singing. These poems, she said, you are, he said, beautiful. That is not love, she said rightly.
Pierce Dixon, St. John's Ravenscourt School, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
The Loaf by Paul Muldoon. When I put my finger to the hole they've cut for a dimmer switch in a wall of plaster, stiffened with horsehair, it seems I've scratched a 200-year-old itch with a pink and a pink and a pinky pick. When I put my ear to the hole, I'm suddenly aware of spades and shovels turning up the gain all the way from Raritan to the Delaware, with a clink and a clink and a clinky click. When I put my nose to the hole, I smell the floodplain of the canal after a hurricane, and the spots of green grass where thousands of Irish have lain, with a stink and a stink and a stinky stick. When I put my eye to the hole, I see one holding horse dung to the rain in the hope, indeed, of washing out a few whole ears of grain, with a wink and a wink and a winky wick. And when I do at last succeed in putting my mouth to the horsehair fringe niche, I can taste the small loaf of bread he baked from that whole seed, with a link and a link and a linky lick.
Pamela Lazzara, Vincent Massey Collegiate, Rosemont, Quebec.
At the Center by Afua Cooper. Today, doves flew from my head, and my hair grew. The longing is gone from my body, and I'm filled with peace, perfect peace. No longer shall I speak of electrocuted poets or the ones who inhaled gas until they danced in the dizziness of death, but of brown women who turn the soil with their hands, making vegetable gardens and tending fruit trees. Today, I went into my storehouse, selected the choicest oil, and anointed my body, wrapped myself in the rarest cloth of a deep wine red, stood at my front gate, and words poured from my mouth in flaming chants. Today, the craftsman has come to make a design for me of a woman sitting in deep repose with doves flying from her head. He has made all the pieces, and they fit well together. I shall hang it at my window for all the world to see.
Erin Mugford, Eric Hamber Secondary School, Vancouver, BC.
The Dead by Charles Heavysage. How great unto the living seem the dead, how sacred, solemn, how heroic grown, how vast and vague as they obscurely tread the shadowy confines of the dim unknown. For they have met the monster that we dread, have learned the secret not to mortal shown. E'en as gigantic shadows on the wall, the spirit of the daunted child amaze. So on us thoughts of the departed fall, and with phantasma fill our gloomy gaze. Awe and deep wonder lend the living lines, and hope and ecstasy the borrowed beams, while fitful fancy the full form divines, and all is what imagination dreams.
Cyan Patterson, Moncton High School, Moncton, New Brunswick.
These poems, she said, by Robert Bringhurst. These poems, she said, are poems with no love in them. These are the poems of a man who would leave his wife and child because they made noise in his study. These
are the poems of a man who would murder his mother to claim the inheritance. These are the poems of a man like Plato, she said, meaning something I did not comprehend, but which nevertheless offended me. These are the poems of a man who would rather sleep with himself than with women, she said. These are the poems of a man with eyes like a draw knife, with hands like a pickpocket's hands, woven of water and logic and hunger, with no strand of love in them. These poems are as heartless as birdsong, as unmeant as elm leaves, which, if they love, love only the wide blue sky and the air and the idea of elm leaves. Self-love is an ending, she said, and not a beginning. Love means love of the thing sung, not of the song or the singing. These poems, she said, you are, he said, beautiful. That is not love, she said, rightly.
Margot Hunter Moffat, Next Step Senior High, Sherwood Park, Alberta.
Wolf Lake by Elizabeth Baczynski. It was down that road he brought me, still in the trunk of his car. I won't say it felt right, but it did feel expected. The way you know your blood can spring like a hydrant. That September, the horseflies were murder in the valley. I'd come home to visit the family, get in a couple of weeks of free food, hooked up with a guy I'd known when I was a kid, and things went bad. When he cut me, I remember looking down, my blood surprising as paper snakes leaping from a tin. He danced me around his basement apartment, dumped me on the Chesterfield, sat down beside me, and lit a smoke. He seemed a black bear in the gloam, shoulders rounded under his clothes. So I tried to remember everything I knew about black bears. Whistle while you walk, carry bells. If you don't bother them, they won't bother you. Play dead. Everything slowed. I'll tell you a secret. It's hard to kill a girl. You've got to cut her bad, and you've got to cut her right, and the boy had done neither. Pain rose along the side of my body like light. I lay very still while he smoked beside me. This boy I'd camped with every summer since we were 12. The lake so quiet you could hear the sound of a heron skim the water at dusk, or the sound of a boy's breathing. I came to in the trunk of his car, gravel kicking up against the frame, dust coming in through the cracks. It was dark. I was thirsty. I couldn't move my hands or legs. The pain was still around. I think I was tied. We drove that way for a long time before the Chrysler finally slowed, then stopped. Sound of gravel crunching under tires. I could smell the lake, a place where, as kids, we'd come to swim and know we'd never be seen. Logs grew up from that lake bed. All those black bones rising from black water. I remember we'd always smelled of lake water and of sex by the end of the day. And there was a tape of Patsy Cline we always liked to sing to on our way out. which is what I thought we'd be doing that September afternoon. That, or smoking up in his garage. You know, you hear about the body all the time. They found the body. The body was found. And then, you are one. Someone once told me the place had been a valley, before the dam, before the town, but that was a long time ago. When the engine stopped, I heard the silver sound of keys in a lock, and then I was up on his shoulders, tasting blood. I think he said my name. I think he walked toward the woods.
Okay, I think we have the results for the top 6. The atmosphere in the wings is fantastic. It's really exciting. Everybody's sort of abuzz, and they're very serious when they're out here reciting, but they come off stage and there's high fives and little shimmies, and they're all very happy. So we're going to invite them out. Come on out, everybody. All 18, and I think Joseph is bringing the scores. I'm very proud of you all. Before I even look at this piece of paper, I really, really want to stress. You're looking forward to who's going to win, and this is a competition, and we really care about who wins. But this started off with 40,000 students across Canada learning a poem by heart. And here you are, 18 of you today, so it doesn't really matter that. I mean, you've come so far. Well done. Congratulations. Okay, so the 6 people who will recite in the 3rd round are Nicole Verstichelen from Middleton Regional High School. Please take a step forward. Congratulations. Pierce Dixon from St. John's Ravenscourt School. Well done. Olivia Perry, St. James Allgrade School. Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School. There you are. Ayo Akinfenwa, Burr Oak Secondary School. Congratulations. And Kaylin Regier, Mount Douglas Secondary School. Where are you? There you are. Okay. So we're going to take a 10-minute break now to allow our 6 to prepare and to get the judges' packs in order. And we'll be back. So 10 minutes. Thank you. Come on. Okay, we're back for round 3. So at the end of this round, we will find out which 3 will recite tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Centre Pierre Palado and on the internet. And the students will recite in this order. Ayo Akinfenwa from Burr Oak Secondary School, then Kaylin Regier from Mount Douglas Secondary School, then Pierce Dixon from St. John's Ravenscourt School. Going forth is Olivia Perry, St. James Allgrade School, then Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School, and last, Nicole Verstichelen, Middleton Regional High School. Good luck to them all. Thank you. Round 3, Ayo Akinfenwa, Burr Oak Secondary School, Markham, Ontario.
Echolalia by Ian Williams. Once one gets what one wants, one no longer wants it. One no longer wants what? One no longer wants what one wanted. A man and a woman wants a woman and a man or a man and a woman, depending on the man and the woman. Once one gets what one wants once, one no longer wants it once. Then one no longer wants it at all. Yes, then no. Yes and no, no. Yes, then no, then yes, and always. After yes comes no. Never always yes, but always no. Always no. After yes comes no. One wants what one wants, not what one wanted.
Kaylin Regier, Mount Douglas Secondary School, Victoria, BC.
Fear of Snakes by Lorna Crozier. The snake can separate itself from its shadow, move on ribbons of light, taste the air, the morning and the evening, the darkness at the heart of things. I remember when my fear of snakes left for good. It fell behind me like an old skin. In swift current, the boys found a huge snake and chased me down the alleys. Larry mowing, carrying it like a green torch, the others yelling, "Drop it down her back." My terror of it sliding in the runnel of my spine. My brother saying, Larry, the one who touched the inside of my legs on the swing, an older boy we knew we shouldn't get close to, with our little dresses, our soft skin. My brother saying, "Let her go," and I crouched behind the Karaganas, watched Larry nail the snake to the telephone pole. It twisted on twin points of light, unable to crawl out of its pain, its mouth opening, the red tongue tasting its own terror. I loved it then, that snake. The boys standing there with their stupid hands dangling at their wrists. The beautiful green mouth opening. Terrible dark, oh, no one could hear.
Pierce Dixon, St. John's Ravenscourt School, Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Thoughtless Cruelty by Charles Lamb. There, Robert, you have killed that fly, and should you 1,000 ages try the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learn to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night, there's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food, and Providence, whose power endued that fly with life, when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for it. A life by nature made so short, less reason is that you for sport should shorter make it. A fly, a little thing you rate, but, Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibers, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing.
Olivia Perry, St. James All-Grade School, Lark Harbor, Newfoundland.
Solitude by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Laugh, and the world laughs with you. Weep, and you weep alone. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing, and the hills will answer. Sigh, it is lost on the air. The echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from voicing care. Rejoice, and men will seek you. Grieve, and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad, and your friends are many. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. Feast, and your halls are crowded. Fast, and the world goes by. Succeed and give, and it helps you live, but no man can help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a large and lordly train, but one by one we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain.
Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School, Ottawa, Ontario.
Firewatch by Ken Babstock. Hello, listen, I'm on a field phone. Do not speak until I say over. Repeat, don't talk until I say over. Over. Do you understand, or was your silence intentional? Over. Northwest of the Seven Sisters, in a sort of bunker on stilts. Over. Last week I called in a cobra of smoke. I was packing my gear in a panic when the next tower west confirmed it was only low cloud. Over. I get a crackling out of Alaska that sounds religious. Vladivostok, CBC. I've decided I like Paganini. Over. No, leave it, or throw it out. I won't need it here, if ever. Over. When storms wander across the lower jaw of the coastal range, unloading their cargo here, it's like being in the engine room of something metallic and massive. Over. My first grizzly passed within a stone's throw, followed an hour later by the sucking thumps of a park's chopper. Nothing since. Over. Days I rearranged stones shoaled up at the base of the uprights and struts. Nights I stab at imagining anything lovely, but end up laughing. Over. The forest goes quiet, as if waiting for me to finish. Listens hard to whatever isn't itself. Makes me anxious. I think of how we ever came to inaudible, given the arm's length I kept joy at. Over. Affection stung like a rasp drawn over inaudible. I thinned the world of it. Don't live as I did. Allow for terms of relief. The black maples aligned along streets, waddling skunks, their dark dusters through the foxglove, your shoulder bag, shoes, the faces of strangers, all may strike you as fibers of a tremendous sadness. That's you. In among the weave of it, new, over. Is that important? I've been contracted to watch this horizon and will be here until something happens. Over. Tell them it will. Over.
Nicole Verstichelen, Middleton Regional High School, Middleton, Nova Scotia.
Richard Corey by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Whenever Richard Corey went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, clean favored and imperially slim. And he was always quietly arrayed. And he was always human when he talked. But still, he fluttered pulses when he said good morning. And he glittered when he walked. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king. And admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything, to make us wish that we were in his place. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head.
Okay, I think we have a result. Joseph? Yes. Please come on down. Bring me the list. We'll invite our 6 out while we're waiting. Come on out, join us. Okay, so here we go. Ayo Akifenwa, Burr Oak Secondary School. Congratulations. Olivia Perry, St. James All Grade School. And Kira Sandrock, Canterbury High School. Congratulations. So please come back tomorrow to watch them recite at the National Finals Award Show, which will take place here at 10 a.m. I want to thank all of you students for the incredible work you've done. I'm not sure that many people in the audience could have done what you did today. That was really remarkable. Really, really good work. Thank you also to our judges for your very hard work. You looked at a lot of poems. Our volunteers as well. We have a huge number of volunteers who have been helping us out, so thank you. Thank you. But most particularly, I would like to thank personally and from the whole team, from the whole competition, the teachers who have done a huge amount of work and without which the contest doesn't exist. So thank you all very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you.